Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly monumental piece of history, Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom. We aren't just going to be looking at timelines and dates here. We're really diving into the profound philosophical breakthroughs that allowed a man to endure unimaginable hardship and somehow emerge ready to heal a completely fractured nation. Let's get right into it.
Okay, to kick things off, let's start with a staggering number, 300. We're talking about more than 3 centuries of white rule in South Africa. I really want you to let the weight of that sink in for a second. Generations upon generations lived under this deeply systemic inequality before a monumental shift finally happened. And understanding the sheer length of this era is absolutely crucial if we're going to grasp the magnitude of what Mandela and his people ultimately achieved.
So, that brings us to our first major milestone, a historic triumph.
The scene is set. It's May 10th, 1994. In this incredible twist of fate, world leaders who had previously boycotted South Africa gathered around to watch a 75-year-old Nelson Mandela take the oath as the country's very first black president. Standing right there at the Union Buildings Amphitheater in Pretoria, he officially ushered in democracy. It was literally the closing of one incredibly dark chapter and the opening of something entirely new.
And the mandate he had was just overwhelming. As you can see here, his party secured 252 out of the 400 available seats in South Africa's first ever democratic elections. I mean, this wasn't just some narrow win, right? It was a resounding, unified call from the people saying they wanted a completely new direction.
During his vow, he stood before the world, respectfully addressing all the dignitaries. But more importantly, he made a rock-solid promise to his countrymen. He completely assured them that there would be no discrimination based on caste, color, creed, or race. He promised that one group would never, ever again suppress another, and that the new government would treat all people with due respect and true equality from that day forward.
But of course, to truly understand the weight of this triumph, we have to look back at the scars of oppression.
Take a look at the powerful symbolism of the anthem sung that very day. You had the white crowd singing Nkosi Sikelel' Afrika, while the black crowd sang Die Stem, which was the old anthem of the Republic. Hearing those two songs intertwined like that was a beautiful moment for sure, but it also immediately reminded Mandela that this brand new unity was built directly on top of a deeply, deeply fractured past.
Those dual anthems really brought back intense memories of decades of brutal exploitation. Mandela deeply felt the pain of his race. He recognized that this system, a system where people were brutally suppressed on their very own land, had honestly created one of the harshest and most inhumane societies the world had ever seen. And we really have to keep this dark context in mind to fully appreciate the light of his leadership.
This leads us perfectly into rethinking courage and hate.
Now you might be wondering, how on earth does a person survive that kind of inhumane society and come out the other side leading with peace? Well, Mandela firmly believed that absolutely no one is born hating another person because of their skin color, their background, or their religion. Hate is an entirely learned behavior. But on the flip side, love comes much more naturally to the human heart. Think about what that actually means for us today. It means our default setting is connection, not division.
Just listen to the emotional core of his entire philosophy. He said if they learn to hate, they can be taught to love. I mean, wow. This just proves that our natural inclination toward connection can absolutely overcome immense darkness. It's such a beautifully pragmatic view of humanity, isn't it? If society has the power to engineer hatred, it absolutely possesses the power to engineer compassion and love.
And along with love, Mandela completely redefined bravery. We often think a brave person is someone who never feels afraid, but that's a total myth. He defined courage not as the absence of fear, but as the ability to conquer it. Mandela felt terror. He felt doubt, but his courage was all about moving forward anyway. It's an incredibly practical takeaway for any of us when we're facing our own massive obstacles.
So, how did this oppression affect daily life? Let's talk about what Mandela called the twin obligations.
Mandela argued that every single human being has 2 major duties in life. The first is deeply personal. It's your obligation to your family, your parents, your spouse, your kids. The second is broader. It's your duty to your community and your motherland. And in a normal, free society, we get to balance these obligations based on our own passions and interests.
But here is the tragic reality. In South Africa before the democratic wave, balancing these was entirely impossible for a black man. The system of racial domination forced individuals into an impossible corner. If you tried to step up and serve your people, you were quite literally ripped away from your family. They were treated as slaves of exploitation, fundamentally denied the basic human right to fulfill both of those twin obligations.
As Mandela grew into an adult, this harsh reality really hit him. He suddenly realized that the freedom he thought he had as a kid, it was merely a temporary illusion. He saw as clear as day that the people of his color and race were entirely bound in chains of oppression and tyranny, treated so unfairly by the white-skinned people at literally every turn. So it wasn't just a lack of political power. It was the absolute theft of a normal, dutiful life.
And that powerful realization brings us to our final concept, the indivisibility of freedom. This is arguably Mandela's most complex and powerful philosophical takeaway. Freedom is indivisible. But what does that actually mean? Well, it means you can't just slice freedom up, handing it out to one group while completely denying it to another. For true freedom to actually exist, it requires the liberation of both the oppressed and the oppressor alike. You simply can't have one without the other.
He deeply understood that the oppressor must be liberated too. Why? Because, as he put it, a person who snatches another's freedom is also a prisoner of similar oppression. Anyone taking away someone else's freedom just becomes shackled in their own chains. They become a prisoner of hatred and prejudice, locked behind bars of their own making. So the oppressor is never genuinely free either.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the oppressor is also trapped in the chains of hatred, what must we change within ourselves to experience true, indivisible freedom? It's such a profound question about civic duty and personal responsibility. Just think about how Mandela's realization that even his captors needed liberating completely changed the trajectory of a whole nation. Thank you so much for diving into this incredible source material with me today, and keep questioning what true freedom looks like in your own life.